The phone rang at 2 a.m. Nobody calls at that hour with good news. When I saw the name on the screen, my chest tightened. Chloe, my sister. The sister I hadn't spoken to in 5 years. For a moment, I just stared at the phone vibrating on my nightstand inside my tiny studio apartment. The same apartment I could barely afford on my retail manager salary. 5 years of silence. 5 years since the night everything in my life changed. And now she was calling. At 2 a.m.? I answered. Mia? Her voice sounded wrong. Gone was the smug confidence that usually dripped from every word she spoke, the Princess Chloe tone our parents adored. This voice sounded hollow, fragile. Please, don't hang up. I almost laughed. 5 years of ignoring my existence, and that was her concern? I answered, didn't I? I said flatly. There was a pause, a shaky breath. Then she said it. I'm sick. I sat up slowly in bed. Really sick. My fingers tightened around the phone. My kidneys are failing. The words hung in the air between us. For a moment, I didn't say anything. Not because I didn't care, but because my mind was racing through 5 years of memories I'd spent trying to bury. I'm sorry to hear that, I finally said quietly, and I meant it. Despite everything, I wasn't a monster. Have you talked to your doctors about the transplant list? Another pause. That's why I'm calling, she whispered. I already knew what was coming, but hearing it still made my stomach twist. I need a kidney, Mia. Her voice cracked. And family members have the best chance of being a match. There it was, the real reason for the call. I stood up and walked to the window of my cramped apartment, staring out at the community college campus across the street, the place I attended part-time, the place I ended up at after my future was sold for someone else's honeymoon. You need my kidney, I said. Yes. Then she asked the question, will you get tested? I stayed silent for a moment. Then I said something she clearly didn't expect. I have a question first. Anything. Where did you go for your honeymoon, Chloe? Silence filled the phone. Then she whispered, Bora Bora. Bora Bora, Chloe whispered. The words sat there between us like a ghost. I leaned my forehead against the cold window of my apartment. 3 weeks, she added quietly. I closed my eyes. How much did it cost? I asked. Mia, please, this isn't the time. How much? I repeated. Another long pause. Then, finally, $48,000. Exactly the number I expected. $48,000. The exact amount sitting in my college fund the last time I checked it. The fund our grandparents had created for me when I was born. Money they saved their entire lives, so that one day I could go to university without worrying about debt. Except I never saw that money. Chloe did. Was it worth it? I asked quietly. Mia. I hung up. Then I sat there in the dark, staring at the city lights outside my window. Because that number, $48,000, had changed everything about my life 5 years earlier. Let me take you back. Picture an 18-year-old girl sitting at the kitchen table with 2 envelopes in her hands. In one hand was an acceptance letter to her dream university. In the other was the financial aid paperwork she didn't think she'd need. My parents sat across from me, exchanging glances. Finally, my mom cleared her throat. Sweetheart, we need to talk about your college fund. That sentence alone made my stomach drop. What about it? My dad leaned forward. Your sister is getting married. I blinked. Okay. Weddings are expensive, my mom added quickly, and honeymoons are once-in-a-lifetime experiences. Something inside my chest tightened. So, what does that have to do with my college fund? Silence filled the room. Then my dad said the words that shattered my future. We used it. The room suddenly felt smaller. What? Chloe needed it, Mom said gently. Her honeymoon is very important to her. I stared at them, trying to understand. But that money was from Grandma and Grandpa. Yes, Mom nodded. For my education. Another pause. Then she said it like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. Chloe's happiness is more important than some fancy school. My voice shook. But that's my future. Dad leaned back in his chair. Stop being selfish, Mia. Selfish. The word hit harder than anything they'd said. You're young. You'll figure it out, he added. But true love, Mom said softly, smiling, that's priceless. My hand started shaking. When did you take the money? Another silence. Then Dad answered, yesterday. The room spun. You already spent it? The deposits were due, Mom said quickly. So the decision was already made? Neither of them answered, which meant yes. My future had already been transferred into airline tickets, luxury resorts, and champagne dinners. Across the table, Chloe sat quietly, twisting her engagement ring. The ring alone probably cost more than my first year of textbooks. You okay with this? I asked her. She looked up at me, completely calm, completely unbothered. Then she smiled. It's not my fault. My stomach dropped. Mom and Dad offered. But you knew it was my college fund. She shrugged lightly, and then said something I would never forget for the rest of my life. Mom and Dad just love me more. Not love me too, not they had to choose, just they love me more. She said it like it was the most obvious truth in the world, and judging by the silence in that room, it probably was. That was the night I realized something painful. I didn't just lose my college fund. I lost my family. I left home that night. No dramatic goodbye, no tears from my parents, just a backpack, 2 suitcases, and the realization that the house I grew up in had never really been my home. For the first few weeks, I slept on friends' couches. Then I started working. Not 1 job, 3. Morning shift at a coffee shop, afternoon retail work, late night inventory at a warehouse. I learned very quickly what life looks like when no one is coming to help you. Every dollar mattered, every shift mattered, and slowly, painfully, I started putting money aside for classes at the local community college, 1 class at a time, sometimes 2 if I worked overtime. Meanwhile, life for Chloe looked very different, because while I was waking up at 5 a.m. to serve coffee, my sister was posting pictures from Bora Bora, crystal blue water, overwater bungalows, champagne glasses raised against sunset skies. Her captions were always the same. #blessed, #living my best life, #dreams do come true. Dreams. Yeah, they do. Especially when someone else pays for them. Not once, not a single time did she mention the sister whose college fund had made those photos possible. Not once did my parents call to ask how I was doing. 5 years passed like that. 5 years of working, 5 years of slowly building a life from nothing. Until this night, until 2 a.m., when the sister who vanished from my life suddenly needed something from me again. My phone buzzed. Another call. This time, it wasn't Chloe. It was my mom. I stared at the screen for a moment before answering. Hello? Her voice exploded through the phone. How dare you hang up on your sister? I almost laughed. Hello to you too, Mom. She's dying, Mia. And? You're sitting there asking her about vacations while she's fighting for her life. I leaned against the window. You mean the vacation my college fund paid for? That was years ago, she snapped back. This grudge has gone on long enough. Grudge. Interesting word. You need to grow up, she continued coldly, and help your family. I let out a slow breath. Funny, I said, because when I needed help, none of you answered the phone. Your sister needs a kidney, my mom continued. This isn't the time to bring up old things. Old things, like my entire future. I needed an education, I said calmly. This is about saving a life, she snapped back. And my life didn't matter 5 years ago? Silence. Then she said something that almost made me laugh. That money was a loan. I pulled the phone away from my ear for a second, just to process what I'd heard. A loan? I repeated. Yes, she said quickly. We always intended to pay you back." That was new. "Really?" I asked. "When?" Another long pause. Then finally, the most vague answer possible. "When things got better." I shook my head. "It's been 5 years, Mom. Things have been hard." "Chloe went to Hawaii last year," I reminded her. "That was for our anniversary." "And Cabo the year before?" "That was different." "And the cruise she posted about?" Silence. "You don't understand what it's like being married," Mom said sharply. "They have responsibilities." I stared out the window at the quiet campus across the street. I understand working 60 hours a week just to afford community college classes. No answer. I understand choosing between textbooks and groceries. Still nothing. I understand watching my dreams disappear into someone else's vacation photos. Her voice hardened.